Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog. Thanks as always for joining me. And I begin with a question this week. Who is it that you seek to please when you're making decisions, making life choices? We have a bit of a quandary sometimes, don't we? Do we please people or do we please God? One of the verses that cropped up in my Bible reading this week was from the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, Proverbs 29 and verse 25. In the New Living Translation, we read this: fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trusting the Lord means safety. I'm sure we've all had that experience when we know or we have a sense that God is calling us to do something or to act in a certain way or to say a certain thing, but at the same time we're feeling pressure, because if we do that thing, if we say that we feel God is prompting us to, or we act in that certain way that God is prompting us, then we know that we're going to get some sort of pushback from maybe our friends, our family, others who know us. There's always that temptation to please people instead of pleasing God, because we know that if we displease people, then we're going to get criticised. A couple of examples that came up. I was listening to UCB, United Christian Broadcasters, UCB2 on the radio this week, and someone was talking about two examples of people who were faced with that choice in a sense, but actually chose to to go along with the crowd, if you like. For the first is Pontius Pilate. When we read the account of Jesus last week before the crucifixion, we know that he was brought to Pilate, who was the governor, the Roman governor of that province. And Pilate examined him, questioned him, and then he said to the crowd, he said, I find no basis for the charges that have been brought against him. This man has done nothing to deserve death. It seems that Pilate knew that the right thing to do was to set Jesus free. Jesus was innocent of the charges that had been brought against him. He certainly didn't deserve to be crucified, a horrific form of death in the Roman Empire. And yet, we know that ultimately Jesus did bend with the crowd, who shouted, "Crucify him, crucify him." Don't know exactly why Pilate gave in to the crowd, but maybe it was because he didn't want a rebellion. Maybe it would look bad to his superiors. Maybe he would lose his job. Even Pilate's wife warned him against sentencing Jesus to death. And yet that's what he did. He bent to the will of the crowd. He chose to please people instead of pleasing God. The other example is one of Jesus' own disciples, Peter. Just before Jesus was arrested and taken away, Jesus foretold what was to come. And he said to his disciples, "You're all going to leave me, desert me." And Peter turns to Jesus and says, "Look, Lord, even if all the others let you down, if they desert you, if they leave you on your own, I will never do that. I will always stick with you." And yet we know that a short time later, 3 times, when Peter was challenged, are you one of his followers, one of Jesus' followers? He said increasingly violently through his words, "No, I'm not. I'm not. I don't know who he is. I've never met him." Peter was pressurized because he knew that if he admitted that he was a follower of Jesus, maybe he would be arrested and taken in the same way as Jesus had been. So ultimately, despite his good intentions, Peter gave in to the pressures of human beings around him, rather than staying true to his commitment and pleasing God. In one of Paul's letters, he says that we are to find out what pleases God. So we come back to that question I began with, and the challenging question is, in my decisions, do I choose to please God or to please people? The reality is we all like to be liked, don't we? It's natural. But sometimes to choose God's way means that some will not like us, or certainly not like the decision we've taken. I know, I confess freely that there have been times in my life when I've given in to human pressure instead of pleasing God, and I regret that. But we can't change the past. We know that Jesus forgives us. He died on a cross so that we might be forgiven. But the challenge is, what about the future? When we face those choices, do I please God or do I please people? Do I please God or do I please my family, my friends, my work colleagues? Let's pray for God's strength to choose to please Him rather than other people. So there's the thought for this week. God bless you. Thank you so much, as always, for listening.